Good morning, happy Sunday. I'm gonna make a little video today that wasn't what I really planned. Today I had a much more fun plan, but there's some persistent IFR conditions at my destination and some forecast scattered ceilings at my current location, so we're gonna hang out for a little bit. But I thought I would do this quick video about something that's kind of been controversial lately. I've seen a few people online kind of arguing about it, a few different videos about it, but about the cost of aircraft ownership, acquiring a plane. I've seen a few kind of clickbait. If you can afford a Tesla, then you can afford an airplane. And as airplane owners will know, that's not true at all. Like, maybe you can afford to buy the plane. There's a lot more that goes into it. So I'm going to today kind of break down all the way from the original purchase, from my 1968 Cessna 150 hotel model, everything, what it cost me to buy it, what it cost me to store it, my insurance, breakdown of line by line. So we'll go sit in the plane and we'll talk about it some more. What we're sitting in right now is my 1968 Cessna 150 hotel model. This plane has a few of the more desirable upgrades that Cessna did. They got away from the straight tail, and so it's got the slant tail, the same as the modern 172. I have the electronic flap switch. I've got the doors that they redesigned to kind of bow the doors out a little bit for 2 extra inches of legroom, which, I mean, as you can see, I'm not the smallest guy, so I really appreciate that extra 2 inches of room in the hips here. So let's talk about the cost, right? There's a lot of these clickbaits like, oh, you can fly, I paid this much for my plane. And then what they don't tell you is anything associated beyond that. So kind of tricking people into thinking that a plane is like a car, right? You just go buy the plane and you can fly. So first of all, let's start with just the cost of the plane, right? So my purchase price was $26,500. I got the plane I bought it last year in November. That's not common, that price for this plane. These now are starting at 30 to 35, and that's in poor condition with a run out engine. Can take that anywhere up to 60, 65,000. I've seen one Aerobat online for like $120,000. I have no idea if it's got like gold plated interior or something. But I was in a situation with a guy who was, he was not desperate to sell, but he just needed to get rid of the plane. He wasn't flying it. He had just lost his hangar, yada yada, those kind of situations. So if you can find those, that's great. It worked out for me. But I didn't pay $26,500 and then start flying this plane and be like, yeah, I've got a plane, it's done. I had to do a pre-buy inspection, right? So we're gonna start $26,500. Pre-buy inspection cost me $800, right? That was just to make sure the plane was airworthy, that I wasn't gonna, grenade myself the first time I got in it. Okay, that came with a squawk list. A few things that I was okay with, a few things that I wasn't okay with. So the price of the plane was good for the condition it was in, so I agreed to the purchase price. And then I put another $3,000 of some minor repairs, and I replaced one instrument. So total actual price to acquire is now $26,500 plus the $800 plus the $3,000. So we're over $30,000, right? So now we're at that bottom range I talked about, that $30,000. So that was my cost to put the key in my hand in the plane, fly it home, airworthy, ready to go. So now you have your plane home, and you got to park it somewhere, right? So I'm in Central Valley, California, obviously state by state, location, country by country. It's going to be really different, but it's $75 a month to park out on the ramp, out on the tie downs here. So what's it, $900 a year in storage, right? So you got to factor that in for an annual cost. If we get rid of the cost of the plane, now we've established we're a little over 30 grand, right? So we talk about annual cost. So cheapest, $900. That's here. That's for me. I'm lucky enough to have acquired a hangar. I'm a very big, I like to do a lot of maintenance. I like to be inside. I like to have my tools. So hangar at this location, a T-hangar costs $300 a month. That has no power, no water, no facilities. It's just a metal box that you can put your plane in, fully enclosed. Okay, $300 a month. So we're $3,600 a year for that one. Insurance. I'm very fortunate that a 150 is pretty inexpensive. I also fly a lot, so my hours are high enough that keeps my insurance down. So I'm about $700 a year for insurance. So, you know, we add that to an annual cost. Okay, it's not that bad, $700, but again, this is arguably the most affordable certified aircraft that you can own and operate. So we're at the bottom end of the scale. Anything else you get, it's just going to go up from here. All right, so now we're into the actual flying of the plane and doing stuff in it. So the fuel burn on this plane is, I estimate it for flight planning purposes, at 6 gallons per hour. Realistically, I'm doing 5 to 5.5, depending on how much cruise versus pattern work or something that I'm doing. And right now, fuel here is about $7 a gallon. That's kind of the average it's doing. We're, you know, still in the peak of our gas crisis. Who knows if you're watching this a year from now? Could be wildly different. So right now, I'm looking at about $40. That's kind of what I estimate, $40 an hour in fuel. And then I pay myself a high reserve, right? You have to pay a reserve. We have to pay it, but you pay yourself a reserve. This is money that you save for upgrades, for maintenance, repairs, for putting aside for when your engine needs to be overhauled. And I pay myself a really, really high reserve for a plane like this of $50 an hour. So my cost to myself for fuel and my reserve is $90 an hour to fly. I flew about 110 hours last year, so we're almost $1,000. No, that ain't right. 10,000? About $10,000, right? Yeah, there we go. I can do math. And so that's my cost of ownership. So, you know, already there, I'm kind of doing this math in my head as we go. I was unprepared to make this video, so I don't have any notes in front of me. But we're, you know, $14,000-$15,000 approximately. Someone add this up and yell at me in the comments for not being prepared for this video. As an annual cost of ownership. That's for one of the least expensive planes that you can own. For certified light sports will be cheaper. You can get some ultralights that'll be cheaper to operate. But if you want to fly a lot, this is the cheapest way to do it, and you're still in it for $12,000 to $15,000 a year if you're flying here in California. So I wanted to kind of clear that kind of stuff out. You know, people need to understand that buying a plane isn't, you buy the plane, you go fly, yay, it's super fun. This is an expensive hobby. And it's going to take up a lot of your time. It's going to take up a lot of your money. So you just need to know that going in, so you don't end up with another plane sitting on the ramp that rots and dies because the owner can't afford to operate it. And then the last thing, the big kicker, the unknown factor, the one that gets people, is the annual. So my plane, I knew my annual was going to be expensive. So like I said, when I had my pre-buy, I had a squawk list. And in that squawk list, I did all the things that were really important to me that I knew I wanted done before I flew the plane. And then after that, I left the other items. I said, I'll leave these till annual. I will order the parts myself to make it a little cheaper, be better prepared. I won't go into detail the list because this video is not about the plane, it's about the cost. So I had a big box of parts that I brought in, and the first time being through, I kind of wanted a little extra gone through. I know they have a list they have to follow, but I was persistent that I had an inspection that was more in line with something they would do on $1 million plane as opposed to a $30,000 plane. And in retrospect, probably didn't need all that, but I'm a better safe than sorry kind of guy. So all in all, my annual cost me about $4,400. That was my first annual. Now that's not common for a Cessna 150. That is super at the high end, but also labor rates are crazy high right now. And I went to a big shop, so I paid a premium rate because I didn't plan enough ahead. I didn't know enough A&Ps on the field. So get to know your A&Ps well before you need to do an annual, because that's going to save you a lot of money. So, okay, so there we go. So if we add that in, we're looking almost $20,000 for my first year of operation of owning this plane. It's a lot of money. So just be aware of that going in. And then there is also one more item that we haven't talked about at all, that I think a lot of people forget about, especially if you haven't even started flight training. And that is the cost of flight training. Flight training is expensive. It cost me $15,000 to get my private pilot's license. You're talking plane rental, you're talking CFI rental, you're paying the fee for the CFI. You have equipment you gotta buy. Nowadays, everything's modern flight bag, right? So your iPad, you're talking about a 4-flight subscription. You need to buy your books, your FAR-AIM, your ACS, and some flight schools will package that in, depending on what type of flight school you're in. They'll have a package deal with some of your learning materials or subscriptions. I went to a Part 61 school, so it was very much you kind of do things at your own pace. You buy the materials that you want. The training is a little more casual. I don't want that an implication that the training's any less thorough. I had an excellent CFI. He was amazing. If he hadn't gone to the airlines, I would recommend him, for anybody doing flight instruction. But you do things a little more personalized at your own pace. It's not an actual school. It's a lot more one-on-one. But in the end, that cost me about $15,000, and that's including my check ride fee, to the DPE. That was including the fee for taking the written test, all of that included, right? So, just in the time of buying the plane, owning the plane, getting my pilot's license, over about a 2.5-year period, that is, what are we at? So $30,000 for the plane, about $15,000 for the license, about $20,000 for my first year of operation, so we're at $65,000 in 2.5 years. And then if we really want to drill down and look at the 110 hours of rental that I did and break that down from anywhere from $100 an hour for a light sport that I rented up to $230 an hour for the Cessna 182 when I did my high performance. I'm not even prepared to do the math, but we'll just round it up and say I've spent about $75,000 in 2.5 years of flying, and I'm flying the inexpensive stuff. So next time you see a video where someone says, if you can afford whatever, you can afford a plane, and yes, that's true. If you can afford to buy A, you can afford to buy B. But owning A and operating A is nothing compared to owning and operating B. So just be mindful of those clickbait videos. Take them for what they are. They're meant for entertainment. I just want to give people a little more insight as to the financial commitment that comes with flying. But I'll tell you, if you love it, it's worth it. I don't regret a single penny that I've spent. And if you love it as much as I do, you won't either. So keep the blue side up. Happy flying. Stay safe, guys. Have fun out there.